Hello children, in today's video we are going to learn the poem of Beehive. The name of the poem is A Legend of the Northland. This poem, A Legend of the Northland, is a ballad. And what is ballad? A ballad is a poem narrating a story in short stanzas. Actually, ballad means what? It is a poetic form. It means it is a poem which narrates a story in short stanzas. Ballad is such a kind of poem which tells us a story in short stanzas, and in the poem all the stanzas comprise 4 lines. See, in every stanza there are 4 lines. In every stanza there are 4 lines. How many lines? 4. See here, these are 4 lines. Again in these are 4 lines. So in every stanza there are 4 lines. So this is called as ballad, which tells a story. Okay, but it is a story, but it is in the form of poetry. And it has 4 lines. In total there are 16 stanzas in this poem. In this poem there are 16 stanzas. Okay, now what does this ballad says? Now here, ballads are a part of folk culture or popular culture and are passed on orally from one generation to the next. Ballad means what? Here the stories or the whatever the information is given in that ballad, that is given orally. Now it is in the written form, but in olden time it was passed orally way, in verbal way, not in written form. Here folk culture means what? Folk culture means a story of any area or any what do you say, about any culture. It is a story. Okay, that is a folk culture, and that culture comprised traditional stories which were passed from one generation to next generation. Means the stories of the different particular culture, it was passed from one generation to the next one by oral way. Okay, not in written way. This story, now here in this ballad, A Legend of the Northland, here in this story the Northland area is given. The Northland means what here? The area which is to the northern pole, okay, which is near the North Pole. This exact place is not specified, but Northland means what? The area which is in the northernmost part of the earth. Okay, that is Northland. So here legend means historical story on which a very old and has been passed on from generations to generations. Legend means what? Something important and which was passed from one time to another time, which was going on from the long time, and it passed generations to generations. Now we'll go stanza wise. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. See, in these 4 lines, what does the poet wants to say? Here, the poet wants to say that in this region around the North Pole, the duration of the day is very less, because its position is such that the sun rays reach for a very less time there, and that's why it has a shorter daytime. And when this area is experiencing winter season, because of that less sun rays fall on this land or on this area, in this area, and because of that the land is chill or it is cold most of the time. Here in this area the experience winter, and all the time the winter season can be experienced here. The duration of night is very long, okay, and the daytime hours are very less. So here in this 4th line, that they cannot sleep them through, means what here? The people cannot sleep because the daytime is very shorter and night time is very longer. So all the time they feel that is night, but still they cannot sleep for longer time as the night time is longer. Though the night time is longer, if they go to bed, if suppose they go to bed during the night time, though always the night time is longer there, if they go to bed, they can take sleep of few hours, and then again they have to wake up, and it is still the night time. Okay, because of the night time is longer, but they cannot sleep for more or the long period of time. So he wants to emphasize here, the poet wants to emphasize that the fact what duration of the night is very long. Here means by these 4 lines we come to know that the area which is in the area of Northland has shorter day and longer nights, and that's why the area is cold. Its weather is cold or winter season, and it is long winter season. Now the second stanza. Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bears' cubs in their funny furry clothes. Here the second one here, sledges. What does it mean? Sledges means here, the sledges means the vehicle which was carried in the snow areas, okay, like reindeers carry the vehicles, like they are sledges which slide on snows. And reindeer is an animal, okay, which carries the or which just pulls the sledges when it has snow. And the children, they wear such a clothes that they look like bears' cubs. Because of how they look like bears' cubs? Because of their funny furry clothes. Their clothes are furry clothes and funny clothes, and that's why they look like bears' cubs. Here the Northland region experiences severe cold conditions because of that snowfalls, okay, and it is a snowy area. The reindeer is an animal which is found in the snowfall area or in cold areas where the snowfall is very huge, and that's why here the people tie their reindeers to sledges and their reindeers pull the sledges, okay, and the children, they look like bear cubs, okay. Then again the next paragraph. They tell them a curious story. They means here what? Now we'll see. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe this true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you here. They tell them here. They means what? They means here the parents, the people, the elder ones. They tell them here. Them means who? The children. They means what? Children, and they means elder ones. That means the people, grown up people. They tell stories to the younger ones. What is the story? That is a curious story. And they tell that I don't believe. Here the poet says that they tell the story, but I don't believe. What is the story? And yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you, and you may understand what I want to tell here. The people, they tell the story, but here I do not believe to these stories. But still I will tell you the story because you can understand what the story moved in that area or in the Northland. What is that? In first line, they here means what? The parents or the elders, and them refers to the children, okay, the younger generation. And the elders of the Northland, they tell the story, and here poet is not ready to listen that, or he is not ready to believe. But here poet says that though I don't feel that it is true, but still I want to say this story. I want to say this story to my reader who is reading this poem, so that they can learn a lesson from that story. That's why I am telling you the story. The story gives an important message, and that is why the poet here wants to tell a tale here. Tell means he wants to say a tale. Tell means what? Story. The second tale means what? Story. T-A-L-E, tell means story, and here the poet wants to say the story. Okay. Now the next stanza. Once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it, preaching just as he did, Here there is a story about a good saint, and its name was Peter. The story is about Saint Peter. Okay, the story is about Saint Peter. When Saint Peter used to live in the world and went around giving religious lectures to the people just like all saints do, then an incident happened. Here this Saint Peter used to move place to place and preach the people about the religious matters, and like other saints. But one incident happened with him, and what was that incident? That incident was the story. Okay, that made this story. Now next stanza. He came to the door of a cottage in travelling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and making them on the hearth. Here he came. Here means who came? He means here the Saint. He sent. Saint Peter came to the door of a cottage, of a home, or of a hut, or a place, or a house. Why? He was just traveling around the earth. Why he was traveling? He was just teaching, preaching to the people. Okay, and he came because of the traveling. He came near the house. Maybe he is hungry. Where did he come? Where a little woman was making cakes. He came to the place where a woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. Here hearth means what? A place or where the cakes are prepared. Okay, hearth. So, and being faint with fasting. Here the saint was he was just fasting, because of fasting he was about to faint, about to collapse. Okay, because of fasting, or because what does your fasting mean? He did not keep fasting by himself, but he was walking for longer days, and that's why he could not get proper food, and that's why he was about to fall, and he was feeling faint, and that's why because of fasting he was feeling faint. And for the day was almost done, and almost the day was over. It was around evening time, near about evening time. So he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. So he asked, here Saint Peter asked that he wants a piece of cake from her. But then what happens? He asked for a single piece of cake from the lady. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. So here when she saw that the saint is asking for a bread, so she made another, but a smaller cake, and she just started baking that smaller cake. But when it was baked, she looked at the cake, and she thought that it was a bigger one cake. Now the cake was bigger one. She felt that it was too large to give away, means it was too large. It was larger one. The cake was bigger one, and she did not want to give him, because by these lines we come to know that she was a greedy lady. She was a selfish lady, and she did not want to share her belongings to the saint also. Next stanza. Therefore she needed another, and still a smaller one, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. See here. So when she found that the first one is bigger one, so again she kept that in her store, and she prepared another one. She started baking another one. Still the smaller one than the previous one. The smaller one than the previous one. Again, when it was baked, again she looked at it, and it again turned bigger one, and she felt that this one is also larger than the first one, and she decides not to give that same to the saint. Then what happens? Then she took a tiny scrap of dough. The third time, see here, first two times she prepared the smaller one, but still at the end of the baking she found that those cake pieces were bigger, larger, and she did not want to give it. She was so greedy and selfish woman. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer, but she couldn't part with that. See here, so selfish she was. Then lastly, thirdly, she took a tiny scrap, very small scrap of dough, means that white flour, and she prepared a very smaller cake. She rolled and made it very flat, and she baked as if she was not baking a cake, but she was baking a flat wafer. It was so thin, but still she could not give that thin cake also to the saint. And for she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. See here, after the third attempt also, when she prepared the third one like a wafer, still she felt that it was bigger, it was larger, so she should not give that cake to the saint. So she keeps that wafer like cake also in her shelf, but does not give. She talks herself that my cakes are, my cakes seem too small when I eat of them myself. When I start eating my cakes, I feel that the cakes are very smaller. But see the condition. When I am giving, I am trying to give this cake to the saint or someone else, I feel that the cakes are bigger one, larger one. So I cannot give it. Then good Saint Peter grew angry. So after these three incidents, she started, after her reactions, these incidents, he became angry, he grew angry. For he was hungry and faint. Why? Because he was hungry and faint. And that's why he grew angry, he became angry. And surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. So here, what does he became angry, and Saint Peter became angry, and he was very hungry. Why? He was feeling very weak, and this selfish woman, this greedy woman, was not ready to give him even a small piece, and that's why he grew angry. So this behavior of this greedy woman, made him angry. The next one, and he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm." So here, with anger, he said, "You are far too selfish. You are too selfish. You are very selfish." So he cursed with anger. He cursed the lady with anger that she is not allowed, or she does not deserve. Okay, she does not deserve the human form. Why? Because human must have humanity, but she did not have humanity, and that's why he says, "You are not eligible for this earth. You are not allowed to dwell in this human form. You are not allowed to be human being on this earth." And she shall become. Now here she says, she did not deserve the human. She shall become bird, and just like birds build their houses and boring into the wood and collect little food. Okay, food and warm. So here, this I'm discussing that one. So here he says that he asked that God has given her food. Okay, then he asked that God has given her food, but still he is not sharing, and because of her selfish nature. So for all the resources she had, she did not want to share them with anybody, and that's why he cursed her. Now what was his curse? "Now you shall build as the birds do." He said, "Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard dry wood." So here he cursed that you will do like a bird, just like birds. They build their nests, their houses, by boring into the wood and collect very little food by working hard the entire day. See here, means she is getting everything, but she is so selfish, she is so greedy that she does not want to share her things with others, and that's why he says that you do not deserve to be human beings. So you must have such a struggle like birds, like they have their when they want their house, they have to just work hard, boring is that making hole in the wood, and still after these lots of hard work, it gets very less food. Then up she went through the chimneys, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. See here, as soon as the Saint Peter cursed the woman, she did not get a chance. To speak for herself. Why? Because she means at the same time she flew up to the roof, because she could not get time to say something or apologize before the saint, but she flew up to the roof through the chimneys and flew out in the form of a bird. And she flew out in the form of the bird. And what was the bird? The bird is woodpecker. The name of the bird is woodpecker. So here he cursed, and the bird, she was converted into the bird, and the name of the bird is woodpecker. Now the last two stanzas. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned black as a coal in the flame. Here, what does it mean? She had a scarlet cap. See here, when she flew, when the woman turned into a bird, at the time, she was wearing a red cap, or red colored cap on her head, and this cap was there on the bird's head also. The same cap was also on the bird's head, that woodpecker's head. And but the woman's remaining clothes, only cap was remained. Cap stayed there on her head, but other remaining clothes burned into ashes like coal. Okay, they burned. The clothes burned, but her cap remained same on her head. Like the woodpecker also has a cap on its head. And every country schoolboy. Now here the last stanza. What does it say? And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. So here, after that, people who live in the countryside, okay, the people who live in countryside, even the small children who go to school, see in this kind of bird. Which kind of bird? The woodpecker. They can see that she stays there all day. Woodpecker stays there all day and keeps on digging the wood with her beak. So to collect her food, she just continues digging the wood for collecting food. And then his elders tell him the story. Means the elders tell the story to the younger ones, that they say that the bird used to be a woman earlier. She was very greedy, and so she was cursed by Saint Peter and turned into a bird. Why? Because of her selfish nature and greedy nature. They get a teaching, they get a lesson. The children get lesson that they should not be greedy, they should not be silly. So here the poem comes to it. We can understand that if we see the rhyme scheme of this poem: Northland, winter, few, winter, though, again deer, snow, cubs and clothes. So here A, B, C, B. Here A, B, C, B. Like it's a rhyme scheme. Not everywhere, but somewhere you may see like that. Like here, story true, lesson you. Here A, B, C, B. Like here. Okay, these are the rhyming schemes. So here the example of alliteration is also here. Alliteration means what? It is the repetition of the consonant word or consonant sound in two or more closer stanzas. Like here in first stanza, that, they. Okay, these are the them, through. Continue. Okay, that, they and them, through, he. These are the continuously two consonant sounds repeat. Alliteration. Okay, so in this way we have finished this poem. Then next video we will see the next lesson. Till then, bye bye.